Welcome back everyone. Today I'm revisiting a very popular and very recent video that I did. I only made the first one like 2 weeks ago, but it's been so popular among you guys that I got right back into the topic again. Creepy toys. It's not the first time I've talked about them on this channel, and it won't be the last. In fact, until toys stop moving by themselves or making creepy noises for no reason, there will always be scary stories like these to tell. Thanks again to Reddit for all of these. My name is Danny Burke, and this is the top 10 scary toy stories part 2. Starting off at number 10 now, we have The Nightmare. This one came from Reddit user MD39. She said, "My mother had a collection of dolls when she was a child, but had a very abusive stepfather who burned all but one. I have the one that she salvaged. I called her Amy, and I've always felt positive vibes from her. I guess my grandmother and aunt noticed how proudly I displayed Amy and started buying me expensive dolls for my own collection. One doll in particular gave me a very strange feeling of being watched. I had named her Catherine. She was taller than the other dolls, and I always swore that she had moved slightly every so often. Never enough to cause alarm, but enough to where I would realize something was off. She was on the end of my display, being the tallest, and Amy was at the other end since she did not have a doll stand and had to sit. One night I had a nightmare about Catherine trying to kill Amy. When I came home from school that afternoon, Catherine was turned facing Amy's direction and Amy was slumped over instead of sitting up. Needless to say, Amy was moved off the display and took up a new residence with my American Girl doll, the only doll I actually played with. Amy was a permanent fixture on the chassis lounge my neighbours had given me for the AG doll. After that, the weird feeling Catherine gave me went away." Next up at number 9 now, we have Purple Smoke. I love this one. It sounds like it's straight out of a horror book of short stories. It came from Reddit user NSA Sees You, and they said, "When I was a kid I used to live with my grandparents. I have an uncle and an aunt who is just 4 to 5 years older than me, and we would be home alone after school. One time my grandparents were out a little longer, we were watching TV in the living room, and out of nowhere we had a little kid talking in one of the guest rooms. Back then one of the rooms was never used, so we used to play in there. The only toy that was in the guest room was my aunt's doll, and I can remember the voice clearly asking us to go in there to play with it. My grandpa burned the doll that night at the beach. It was weird how the smoke was purple when he burned it." Coming in at number 8 now, we have the Transformers. This one came from a Reddit user who has since deleted their account, which I always find a little bit suspicious, but let's jump in anyway. They said, "McDonald's used to do a toy with their Happy Meals which was a Transformer type thing. It glowed and made noises when you pushed a button. Well, somehow turning on my light would trigger this and it would make all this racket, which wasn't really a big deal because it was pretty quiet and not that obnoxious, until the batteries started dying. A few months later I turned on the light in my room and all of a sudden I hear rah! I have never run so fast out of my room. I refused to go in there for days because I was convinced something in there wanted to kill me. I totally forgotten about the toy, so eventually my parents went to investigate and found it hanging in a storage basket. That went as far away from the house as is physically possible." Moving on to the number 7 spot now guys, we have Sweet Child. This one came from a Reddit user called Intrigued who reminds us why some things really should just be for Christmas. They said, "When I was like 7 to 8, my dad gave me a Madame Alexander doll, which started my love of beautiful porcelain dolls. My mom's boyfriend learned this and got me a cheap porcelain doll for Christmas. It had one of those wind-up things on the back and would play Sweet Child of Mine. I liked it at first until in the middle of the night it would just start playing by itself. It moved to the very back of my closet after that, and then I left it there where I took my sister's room when she moved out. My brother, who inherited the old room, said he found the doll because he would hear it playing in the middle of the night too." Next up at number 6 now, we have Waving Hello. This one came from Reddit user Newa Squatch. It's quite long, so I'm going to jump into it right now. They said, "When I was a kid, I slept in a room with my older brother, while my older sister slept in another room with my youngest brother. Our rooms were quite small though, so to create more space, we took the doors off the closets and put dressers and stuff in them. In my sister's bedroom, she had rows of stuffed animals on the top shelf of her closet. One of the stuffed animals that was up there was actually a weird looking bear that was coloured red and white, with an oversized head and a small body. This particular stuffed animal was given to us by our aunt, who had a child years earlier that when born had an oversized head due to an excess of water on its brain. This poor child died soon after birth, and she gave us the stuffed animals that he had. I assume she got this particular one for her child because it reminded her of him. My siblings thought it was ugly when it was given to us, but I thought it was unique and sort of cute. Despite it sort of being mine, it somehow ended up in my sister's room. My sister and my youngest brother slept in a bunk bed. Now she slept on the top bunk while my brother slept on the bottom. Because my brother was afraid of the dark, they slept with the lights on. From where they were in their beds, they had a clear view of the closet. One night, my sister suddenly awoke to see the stuffed bear moving one of its arms back and forth, which looked like it was waving hello. She immediately got freaked out and started trying to wake up my younger brother by calling his name. As she was calling his name to wake him up, the stuffed bear stopped waving, and suddenly it and other stuffed animals started slowly moving their heads from side to side, which looked like they were saying no and urging her to not wake him up. At this point, my brother woke up and saw the stuffed animals shaking their heads. They then ran out of the room screaming, which woke up our whole house and made my dad throw out the stuffed animals that were guilty of freaking them out. I don't know if there was a spirit attached to the stuffed bear, or if the bear was tied to so much emotion and energy and was just a kind of magnet for entities, but I was sad to see it go, despite the scary story. Next, about number 5 now, we have the static. This one comes from Reddit user LW0156. They started off their own thread where they asked people to share their haunted doll experiences. They went first and said, "A couple years ago I was looking at haunted dolls on eBay, not taking it too seriously. I decided to place a bid on one. The next day, weird things started happening around the house. The electrical panel in the basement opened by itself. The lights would turn on and off, and not just flickering. The light in one room would turn off for several minutes and then would turn back on again. Doors would slam shut. My cat kept growling and looking beside me. I went to work and told one of my co-workers about the strange occurrences happening at my place. All of a sudden, the lamp flickered on and off like crazy, and the radio in my room turned on and off and made this loud static noise. I have never been so terrified in my life. I contacted the owner of the doll and begged her to cancel my bid as soon as I got home from work. Who knows what would have happened if the doll actually arrived." Coming in at number 4 now, we have Inherited. This one comes from a Reddit user whose story hits all the right themes of old people, death, and just plain creepy. They said, "You know those cheap plastic dolls that you can get at craft stores that you can knit or crochet elaborate dresses for, popular with grannies? My mom received one of these dolls with a purple and white dress from an elderly neighbor lady not long before the lady passed away. My mom had a blue armchair in her bedroom and had the doll sitting on it. She always kept the door open. Every time I would pass her room, the doll would turn its head to look at me. My nephew, who is not much younger than me, experienced the same thing. I had nightmares about that doll. I just hated it. Eventually, my mom gave it away and I was beyond relieved." Moving on to number 3 now, we have Arms Outstretched. This one comes from Reddit user Tequila Bat. They said, "When I was growing up, my house was always uncomfortable. There was something off about it, and I had a lot of unexplainable experiences living there. As time went on and I got older, I started to put away my toys, but one stayed until almost the end. A Vermont teddy bear my mom had given me when I was very small. These are expensive bears. The average price is around $60, with basic joints so the limbs and the head can swivel. I loved it more than any other toy, and so I can only explain what happened as my house turning it against me. At first, it was the feeling of being watched by it. However, I always had the feeling of being watched in that house, and so I ignored it. Next came the distinct feeling it was in a different position when I came back to it. Not the other end of the room, but maybe its head was pointing a different way, or it was on the wrong side of my bed. Then one night, as I was lying in bed, the bear was laying next to me flat on its back. I heard a noise in the hallway and sat up. When I turned around, the bear was sitting up next to me with its head turned and its arms outstretched, like it was trying to grab me. I fell out of bed, trying to get some distance between me and the bear. The next day, I packed up any toy with a face left in my room and put it in the crawl space. But, being sentimental, I put the bear up on a shelf, firmly wedged between books and other keepsakes. It never moved again, but that didn't stop the house from finding new toys to make us unwelcome in our own home. Next up at number 2 now, we have the Furby Swarm. Now, if you remember, in the last video we talked about Furbies, and in case you've forgotten, or you just don't know what a Furby looks like, here's the picture for you. Yeah, they look creepy at the best of times, but Reddit user Derpahoo told a story that makes them even worse. They said, "I have been waiting my my whole life for this. In elementary school, I was invited to sleep over at my friend Sally's for her birthday. There were quite a few girls going. We were told everyone was going to sleep in the family room, and somehow I scored the couch. Now, Sally loves Furbies, and above the couch was a shelf dedicated to them. There was a lot of Furbies in different shapes, sizes, and colors on that shelf. So the party is okay, everyone gets ready for bed, and I get comfortable on the couch. Now fast forward a few hours, everyone is dead asleep. I myself am in a nice deep sleep, when suddenly the shelf breaks, the wooden part falling behind the couch, while the Furbies rain down on my sleeping form. Activated by whatever activated Furbies, movement or sound or whatever, they come alive. I am awoken by a horde of Furbies all over me, talking and moving and looking at me. I eventually recovered from that night, but I had nightmares for years. And finally, number 1 now, we have Noah. This came from another Reddit user who deleted their account, but I'm just going to jump into it anyway. They said, when I was a little kid, I used to sleep with a bed full of soft toys. I had my large bears and Noah, the awesome polar bear that has never left my side since I got him. I fell asleep after a few hours of being trapped in my room, but something woke me up after my mom had gone to bed. It was very early in the morning, 1 to 2 a.m, and I could hear something. I stayed very still and listened. Then I felt it. One of my soft toys climbed over me and slid off the side of the bed and onto the floor with a thud. I tried to catch it moving, but it was just standing next to my bed. It was a floppy toy bear, so it couldn't stand on its own. I grabbed it and asked what it was doing. It didn't say anything or move. I dumped it back on the bed and fell back to sleep after a while. I made sure all the dolls and soft toys apart from Noah left my room after that. I've tried to rationalize it since then. I was still pretty young when it happened, under 10, but I remember it so clearly. I was not dreaming. I know I wasn't. I had a rabbit, but it wasn't her. She slept in her hutch outside in the summer, and nothing had gotten into the house. She also didn't move like I had felt either. I don't know what else it could have been. This happened before I saw the black hooded thing standing next to my bed one morning, but after something had woken me up, scratching my leg in the night. Whatever that was bolted when it realized I was awake. It was small. I thought it was my dead guinea pig, but he was upset with me because he died, but now I'm not so sure. And what a good line to end on there, because I'm not so sure of anything anymore. If this topic is popular enough, I think they should definitely make a dark version of Toy Story where toys are plotting to take over the world. Maybe that movie already exists and I'm just ignorant of it. Let's make it. Thanks for watching as always, guys. My name is Danny Burke, and I will see you all in the next one.